One does not simply add chords in the low end. In this video you will learn about chord voicings in the low-end octaves of music. The low end has a very limited frequency range. Now this is actually a very important concept to learn as a composer. Let's say I play a C down here. Every C following that is a double of this frequency. So C1, when I go to C2, that is exactly the double frequency of C1. From C2 going to C3, that is double of C2, and so on. But this also means that the gap in frequency, the range, becomes wider and wider. Not the proportion, it is always the double, but if you take, for example, play a C down here, and then I play a third, so an E, for example, a major third, those frequencies have the same relationship, the proportion between them, as C up here, C5 and E5. But why does these sound so much more clearer and more separate? Because there's a huge difference in frequency between these two, as opposed to C1 and E1 that only differ by a few hertz, whereas up here there's a lot wider gap in frequencies between them. And that is what I mean when I say the low end has a very limited frequency range difference between the notes. Our ears struggle to separate low frequency notes. Now this actually relates back to what you just learned about the limited frequency difference here in the low end. But also since our ears physically have trouble actually distinguishing the notes in the lowest octaves of music. So down here, the reason I can distinguish these now is because piano has lots of harmonic overtones. But if you try this, play way down here with only a deep sine wave sub-bass, you will have a hard time actually picking up if this is a D or D sharp. They will become very similar down there in the low end. The harmonic overtones will mess up the higher spectrum. So any note you play down here, for example an E, the reason that you hear way more higher frequencies compared to this fundamental frequency is the harmonic overtones. And that is an aspect that you really need to consider when playing down here, because anything you play down here will have a harmonic overtone series. Most of those harmonics will be the octaves, the fundamental in doubles of the frequencies, but you will also have thirds and fifths and other notes in there, which you can see if you check a spectrum analyzer. There's lots more going on, not only that harmonic fundamental of the tone. And so anything you play down here will actually spread out into the mid and higher frequency spectrum. So if you play a chord down here, not only is it messy down there by being very close together, but it will also mess up higher up in the frequency range, the mids and highs as well. The low end is the harmonic anchor of music. So by harmonic anchor, I simply mean the fundamental harmonic tonality anywhere in your harmonic progression, the storyline of your music. So let's say you play an F major here. Now, of course, this is an inversion, so F is the fundamental harmonic tonality. Now, what I teach and I recommend is the starting point is to only use the fundamental harmonic anchor here in the low end and layer it in octaves. So this is F plus F, and then up here you have the chord. So now you have 3 Fs, and this provides a very strong harmonic anchor for your music. Let's go to C. Compared to if I start to play chords down here, so let's say I play like this. It just sounds so ugly and bad. Only octaves plus fifth below C3. Now, as a rule of thumb, if you take C4 here and go down an octave to C3, I personally consider everything below C3 to be the low end of music. So as a rule of thumb, I use basically only octaves for the Harmonic Anchor down here. And sometimes I double that up with a fifth. So for example, playing here an A and the fifth. But as you can hear, it starts already with the perfect fifth to sound a bit muddy compared to just the perfect octave. So this also depends on what instrument you use to play, because that is a harmony, the perfect fifth. What instrument you use to play the music down here in the low end range. So some instruments have a more focused sound, and some instruments have way more harmonic overtones for each note you play, which of course creates more mess and mud there in the low end. So be careful, and I would say start with only octaves, and then perhaps add a fifth, which could be with another instrument as well, and dial back a bit compared to the Harmonic Anchor there. Finally, I want to demonstrate the huge difference the sound and instruments themselves can make when playing here in the low end. So with the piano, if I only play the octave, F here, add the C, the fifth, it starts to get muddy and pretty ugly. With strings, again, string ensemble, only octaves, super cool, add the fifth. Sounds very weird, right? But with brass ensemble the same, F plus F in octave, add the C, the fifth. In my experience, brass is better suited for that fatness and thickness in frequencies. It becomes a bit muddy, but it actually works way better with brass down here. I can even play a third here with brass. Perfect fourth. If I do that with strings, bad. Piano, bad. So as you can hear, brass handles it way better with closer voices in the low end. So you have to try this out for various instruments and learn this yourself as a composer. What instruments can play tighter in the low end, but as a general guideline, I would still say only octaves plus perhaps one extra voice, in most cases the perfect fifth, below C3. Start with that as a rule of thumb, and then start experimenting with voice leading and arrangement in the low end of your music compositions. Do you want to get new and powerful sounds to use in your music? Do you want to level up your skills in music composition, production, and sound design? Then take action and check out the links and special deals in the video description.